What's a life hack that made you go, how do people live their whole life without knowing this? Story 1. Jumping rope. I taught myself how to jump rope when I was 58. My fervent wish was that I had learned when I was a youngster. Jumping rope is tremendous fun and fabulous cardio. Story 2. Making a shopping list on my phone. Sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many times working retail I've had customers say that they forgot their list at home and end up coming in later to pick up what they missed. I typically remember things I need to pick up while I'm trying to fall asleep, so I'll quickly add it to my notes app, and by the time I read it at the store, I've completely forgotten I need it in the first place. Story 3. The most important thing I think I've ever learned is the concept of boundaries. I don't let other people's problems become my problems, even when I'm helping them, and I don't try to change other people. I can accept or not accept their behavior and how much I want that behavior in my life. I can offer help, but I can't make someone do anything. I make my agenda clear when I talk to someone. I don't want to manipulate or make someone feel manipulated. When I notice I don't like someone that I have to be around for work or other reasons, I make an effort to find something about them that I do like, something admirable. I'm not at the mercy of my feelings. I can decide how I feel and how I react. This doesn't mean I have to go out of my way to be friends with this person, but it does make interactions with them much more pleasant and makes me a better person. With people I treasure like my family and close friends, I give them a big smile when I see them. I want them to know that seeing them makes my day and that I'm happy they're around. Story 4. Buy clothes that fit correctly. It might sound duh, but shoes, pants with waist too tight, and don't get me started on tailored suits. Story 5. It may not be a life hack, but I was shocked when I saw the pineapple growing and it changed something inside me. Deep inside. Story 6. Once you've watched a TV series on Hulu, it doesn't autoplay from the beginning of episodes when you start the series over again or want to rewatch certain episodes. This drove me nuts as a chronic rewatcher for literal years. Turns out you just go select the little settings wheel on the main page of the series, then choose the option to remove it from your watch history list. Changed my life, ISTG. Story 7. Housekeeping schedules. I was the at-home parent. I lean-read to do certain things on certain days and in certain orders. If I was just looking around for things that needed doing haphazardly, we'd be living in swill because it would take so much longer. Edit to add a corollary. You don't have to organize things that you don't own. You don't have to clean or maintain them either. We tend to own too many things in the US, and regular and consistent removal of extra belongings is vital. Not one thing in 10 that we keep just in case is ever really needed. Story 8. The biggest thing so far for me is financial. It's crazy to me that it's not a bigger deal in America, at least, to educate and prioritize tax-advantaged investment retirement accounts. I know it's not fully possible for many people to contribute to that, but I've been shocked that so many people make plenty of money to contribute to their long-term financial health and have no idea about any of the resources available to them. I had to go out of my way to educate myself on personal finances, but the information I've learned will be life-changing for my financial well-being. Story 9. I saved my favorite pair of jeans when I forgot to empty my back pocket and sat on a pen. Ink exploded and left a big stain. Isopropyl adult beverage and a lot of cotton ball is a must in my medicine cabinet now. Story 10. I was homeless for 15 years and the word bidet never entered my ears. I can't count the number of socks and napkins and old t-shirts I used to wipe with. Now that I'm not homeless, I have a squeeze bottle bidet. Where the hell has this thing been all my life? I haven't bought toilet paper since 2013. Darn, where was this thing all those years? Story 11. Space heater in the bathroom for when you shower. No more shall you suffer the cold draft while taking a shower, nor will you have to suffer from the cold while trying to dry off. Answer. Yes, I bought the Lasco bathroom space heater this winter and run it a few minutes before I get in the shower, and it's so toasty when I get out. I was dreading showering in cold mornings because of how cold it was getting out. Small device for 25, problem solved. And I did the math, 0.25 per hour of runtime in my incredibly high electric cost state. Worth it? Worth. Story 12, that you can spin around the pull tab on a can of pop and put a straw through the hole in the pull tab so the carbonation in the pop doesn't push the straw out. Story 13, get around by bike to avoid dealing with traffic, parking, gas prices, etc. Also, having exercise built into your day will keep you active way more reliably than if you are dependent on finding time and motivation to go to the gym. Story 14, Keyboard shortcuts change my workflow completely. Control-Shift reopens closed tabs in browsers, saved me countless times. WinV on Windows shows clipboard history. You can copy multiple items and paste any of them later. Control Backspace deletes entire words instead of one character. These alone probably save me 30 minutes daily. Story 15. I believe in a future me. When I consider his needs, what can be done to make his life a little easier? It actually makes my life better. For example, I drink iced tea as my go-to beverage. Sometimes when the pitcher is empty and I know it's my last glass of the evening, I can go relax with my tea, or I can make more and then go relax. I literally think of future Bar Smart and make more tea. The next day when I don't have to make iced tea, I literally thank past Bar Smart for the assistance. It started off with tea. Now it's most everything. And then I saw Jimmy Carr give his favorite piece of advice. Prioritize later. Make later a priority in your life. Setting up the wins for tomorrow is important. You have time now. Help your future you. Answer. I read this blog post by Mr. Money Mustache a couple of years ago where he compares it to a conveyor belt where you put gifts on it that will get to you at a later time. Being smart with money, taking care of your body, eating healthy, learning new skills. Those are all gifts to your future self. But you can also make it smaller where you can literally give yourself gifts like a note to yourself you put into a jacket you won't wear all summer, which you'll forget about come autumn, and that can make your day a few months from now. Or just planning some fun stuff for your future self. It's a perspective that might seem a bit cold at first, but there's a certain freedom in it. Understanding the difference between lifelong friends and temporary acquaintances can save a lot of emotional energy and help you focus on the people who truly matter. Story 16. Reminders app. I used to try to remember important dates and would have to constantly remind myself of them out loud, like every other day. I did not realize the amount of constant anxiety I was in until I began using the Reminders app and felt a weight off my shoulders not having to constantly remind myself. Story 17. If the gas pump is pumping very slow, you can lay the gas pump nozzle on the ground for about 10 to 15 seconds and it should start pumping at regular speed. Story 18. Figuring out how to poach an egg kind of flipped my world upside down. I always thought it was some fancy chef magic, but nope, just a little swirl of vinegar and boiling water, and boom, you've got it. Now I can whip up a mean breakfast sandwich in no time flat. It's the perfect fuel before diving into a marathon gaming session, you know? Story 19. Learning keyboard shortcuts for your most used apps. I spent years clicking through menus in Excel, Chrome, VS Code, etc. Then I forced myself to learn 20 shortcuts per app, and it legitimately changed my workflow. Examples. Control-Shift-T, Chrome, reopen closed tabs. Control-Excel, fill down. Alt-Up, down, VS Code. Move lines. Windows 10. Clipboard history. The 2-week learning curve pays off with years of saved time. I estimate I save 30 minutes per day just from muscle memory shortcuts. Setting boundaries is a skill that often feels like a superpower once you finally master it. It's interesting how much time we spend trying to justify our decisions to others, when a simple, firm boundary is often more than enough to maintain your peace of mind. Story 20. Instead of thinking something nice about a person, that is, that color looks great on her, say it out loud. It's so nice to see a person radiate with pleasure. Story 21. How to fold a fitted bedsheet. Once you know it's easy, and I can hardly remember a before time. The basics are you tuck the opposite corners together. By doing this, all the elastic parts are sort of tucked in and you have a square. From there, you fold as normal. Look it up. It's hard to explain, but it's amazing. Story 22. Using the microphone on the phone keypad to create typed messages. Does require a read-through since some words sound alike, but that's just sensible anyway, to reread before sending. Story 23. Label and date your leftovers, and when you open things that have a short shelf life, dairy, etc. I got into the habit when working in pastry, and I've never looked back. No more when did I open this, or when did I go to this restaurant, and no more having to open 3 identical boxes to find the specific leftover you're looking for. Story 24. When opening a bottle of sparkling wine, you hold it at an angle just above where wine will pour out. If the cork pops, or if the pressure in the bottle is great enough that it will froth out, the angle allows the gases to escape without pushing wine out with it. The worst thing you can do is panic and set the bottle down, toss, or hold it upright, as it will be a frothy volcano whose energy feeds itself and you'll lose a lot of wine. Story 25. The shirt you want to wear today is impossibly wrinkled. Take a shower. Without toweling off, put the shirt on. Thanks to Joe for teaching me this. Story 26. Avoid the whole you go left, no, I go left, no, you go left game of chicken with oncoming pedestrian traffic in crowded areas. Look at the ground in the direction you are trying to go. The oncoming party will avoid crossing your path in that same direction. Story 27. If you have a stripped screw, put a wide rubber band over the head before inserting the screwdriver. The rubber fills the gaps and gives you enough grip to turn it. Story 28. If you need to find a third of a length or any other amount, you don't have to do really precise math or ruler work. Just pull out a paper, mark both ends, and fold it. Incredibly fast. I do this all the time to space screws evenly and whatever. Story 29. If you've got a berm that you can't get the lid off of, give a good thwack to the bottom of the jar. Lid will come off easily. Story 30. You'll never feel ready to do something, so stop telling yourself you'll do it when you feel ready and just do it. Story 31. When you ask someone to do something, slip in a deadline nonchalantly. Hey son, can you clean your room today? It's 10 a.m. not. Let's shoot to have it done by 12 p.m. on the dot. Greg, can you get that paperwork I need for this project? Any chance I can have it no later than 2 p.m.? It works very effectively. Story 32. Use an oven liner. I realized they existed a few years ago. Would have saved me hours of scrubbing my oven. Story 33. The old quick brekkie. Microwave eggs 60 seconds with a little mayo, oil, seasoning. Boom brekkie done and cheap, low almond. Story 34. My partner, I share a Google Keep list. As we run out of something, we add it. If one of us is shopping, the other is at home. The person at home can add to the list. There are check boxes you can use once you've gotten an item. Really helpful. Story 35. If you can't find the motivation to clean your place, set a timer for just 10 minutes and start anywhere. Tell yourself you only have to do 10 minutes. 9 times out of 10, you'll keep going after it goes off because the hardest part was just starting. Works for literally any task you have been putting off. Story 36. Simone once shared in an interview that when they're having a bad day, they email 3 people with a kudos. Something that is meaningful that they appreciate about that person or acknowledging something they did well. It works twofold in that it makes their day better and it helps transform your mood to a positive. I've used this a lot since I heard that a decade ago, and it really does work. Story 37. Taking the bottom part off a cupcake, putting it on top of the icing, then eating it like a sandwich. Answer, so funny story. I just transferred to a new hospital facility, and there was a mini display of projects with our facility director there. They of course had light refreshments, basically Safeway grocery store bakery, with cupcakes. I went up to the director, hey Ms. Director, I'ma show you how to eat a cupcake. Did this trick and got her to laugh. Good first impression. Story 38. Routine will always win over motivation. I have found this especially true in my weight loss journey. Making working out and consuming protein a part of a routine has helped me stick with my other healthy habits. Waiting to be motivated was useless. Story 39. Planting seeds in others' minds for long-term decisions, both personally and professionally. I'm not manipulating, but you can get people to think other ways or go through multiple scenarios in their head and ultimately agree with you. For example, we have a 9-year-old dog and young kids. My wife and I love dogs, and our current dog is basically my best friend. I'm the primary person for our dog, and having 2 kids starting activities where we are gone more is something I felt bad about for a dog. I told my wife a year ago I didn't want another dog after our current dog was gone. She disagreed and would want another. I intentionally had this conversation a year ago. My dog should still have a few good years left because now my wife is seeing how much we're going to be here and it's had time to sink in. And as much as she'd want another dog, we just wouldn't be good owners of another dog. I do this professionally as well. It's long-term planning and letting others kind of come around on their own to something you may have been thinking about for a while or foresee as a big problem in the future. Plant seeds for the long game like Inception really does work. Story 40. Depending on if you want to truly help out or just want to sound nice. If you ask someone, do you need help? People will tend to say no thanks. But if you say something specific like, do you need help sweeping and mopping the floor? Then people are more likely to say yes. Answer. I've gotten into the habit of offering specific help. A colleague's husband is in the hospital with heart problems. I live in Las Vegas. She lives in Wisconsin. Before I left work, I said, let me know if there's anything I can do, like send food to your house so you don't have to worry about cooking. One, it suggests something they might not have realized they'd like done. And two, it gives them a barometer of what's in my comfort zone. I don't want to say, LMK, what I can do to help, leaving it open-ended and then have them ask me to do something I can't, like babysit an entire day. Then it looks like my offer was hollow. Story 41. Consistency matters more than motivation. Small habits done daily add up in ways most people underestimate. Story 42. You don't have to pull down your entire soaking wet one-piece bathing suit to sit down and pee. You can just move the crotch to the side. Story 43. My personal life hack was when I accepted that I might actually have, and was then tested for, ADHD. I'd lived for 40 years thinking that I was just stupid and a constant failure no matter how hard I tried at things. Learning how my brain works and the tricks to harnessing it, I feel like I've gained a mental superpower. The negative self-talk is still a habit that's like kryptonite, but it holds less over me now. Story 44. Don't put your meal dead center of the microwave roundtable. Food will reheat more evenly because science. Story 45. Strengthening your abdominal muscles will greatly reduce and possibly eliminate your back pain. It takes time and effort, but it is so worth it. Also get your blood pressure under control. You'll feel half your age. Story 46. Taking photos of membership barcodes and IDs and storing them on an album. If you ever forget to bring things anywhere, you can just show ID from phone or scan barcode from image. Story 47. Rolling down the edges of chip bags. You never have to put your hand into a bottomless oil pit again. Story 48. You don't need motivation to start something. You just need to lower the barrier enough that starting feels stupidly easy. Story 49. You can actually get a job interview by pasting one pixel white text of the whole job description in your resume. It makes the hiring systems think you're the perfect candidate. Story 50. Paying credit card balance every month. The interest charged is ridiculous. Any type of loan is better in an emergency. If you can't pay it, then you're likely living beyond your means. Story 51. Emptying a water bottle is so much faster when you spin it and create a vortex inside it, like a little whirlpool. Story 52. Arrow on your car showing you where the gas tank is. Just telling people okay when they want to argue and you don't. Story 53. IDK. If this fits, but it's something I started and has changed my life. Don't be afraid of doing things on your own. Want to see that sci-fi movie but your friends don't like sci-fi? Go see it alone. Want to try a restaurant but your family can't go? Go alone. You want to see the world but don't have anyone ready to travel? Go alone. It's way less lonely than one might think, and it's really fun. Don't miss an opportunity to do the things you really want to do just because you're waiting for other people to be ready. I don't have friends that like roller coasters, so I take a solo trip to Cedar Point every year, and it's awesome. Way more people do this than you think. Story 54. When you disagree with someone and you're explaining your point of view, acknowledge the logic that led them to their different conclusion. Make it clear that you know that they are using logic, not just riffing on invalid vibes, and you just see things differently. It shows goodwill and it saves a buttload of time. Story 55. Learning to invest my own money. Save up a little money, start small, and do your homework. Open an account practice with Play Money. They have apps for that. It also teaches you no to overreact when the markets go up and down, as well as patience when you're waiting for a spot to jump in or jump out. Learning to invest for yourself frees you from the fear of unemployment, as well as from working at jobs you can't stand or for bosses who are jerks. Story 56. It recently dawned on me that you can just make deviled eggs for yourself anytime that you want. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. Eat as many as you want. Never has it been easier to eat a half dozen eggs in one sitting. Story 57. The best knot to tie your shoes is a double granny knot. You often hear the advice that a square knot is the proper way, but a square knot comes undone too easily, and a really tight double square knot is annoying to undo. If you do a double granny knot, it can be extremely tight, doesn't come loose, but you can pull hard on the ends to undo it. Story 58. Using a password manager. One good master password and everything else is random and unique. Wild how many people still reuse the same one everywhere. Story 59. If you don't want to cry while cutting onions, just blow some air out of your mouth to move the crying particles away from your face. If you feel like that's gross because you're also cooking for someone else, just take a slight step back so your face is not hunched over the onions. I've never cried chopping onions in my life and use them fairly often for cooking. Story 60, eat more legumes. Beans, lentils, peas, I mean significantly more legumes. It will totally transform your health. I've lost 40 pounds and I'm in the best shape of my life at 59. Legumes were key to my new diet. Research supports this. Story 61, making lists causes you to accomplish more. Doing the thing you need to do just when it pops in your mind. Story 62, rolling out 1 pound of ground beef, then freezing it. Thaws out in about 10 minutes in the sink with cold water. Story 63, put appointments and tasks in your calendar with reminders. Your brain is terrible at remembering. Let tools do the work. Answer, appointments in your calendar, that's more of a basic skill than life hack. However, and tasks can be very effective. I regularly, daily or weekly, check what are the upcoming tasks that are important to me or unblocking someone else, friend or family, and time sensitive, a specific workout, dealing with some invoices, prepping dinner so it's quick to reheat, or batch processing chores. Then I schedule time for doing them. Realistically, I'll take care of 2, maybe 3 things in a day, but scheduling time for that makes it more likely than hoping I'll magically find a free afternoon where I plow through my to-do list. Friend wants to hang out. It's sunny outside and I'd love to go for a walk. Now, I know I'm not actually free for 3 hours. I have 1 hour dedicated to cleaning the house, then I'm free for 2 hours. Really takes a load of my mind to give the scheduling, estimating, prioritizing work to my analytical self, then hand out the blind execution of past decisions to my tired self. It's funny how some of the most life-changing habits or tools are things we tend to ignore for years. Once you finally make the switch or try that one specific hack, looking back at the old way of doing things just feels completely unnecessary and outdated. Story 64, get your blood work done. I was tired and feeling pretty lousy about things and therapy didn't fix it. And honestly, on paper, my life is pretty darn awesome. So I was even more perplexed by why I was just so meh about everything. After about a year of feeling crummy, a friend recommended getting my blood work done, and it turns out I had off the charts low vitamin B. Now I take supplements for it, and my mood and energy has changed for the better, which I wouldn't have fixed if I hadn't gotten blood work done. I also learned some other things I could adjust or focus on with diet, and that was helpful as well. Story 65. When making a pizza Lunchable, take out the sauce and crusts. Dump the cheese into the crust section of the tray. Sauce your crust, then put it face down in the cheese. Story 66. Something I discovered on Reddit and I've been using since. People don't want advice. They want to be asked for advice, even if you really don't care about their opinions. People really like being asked their opinions and advices. They'll think, I'm pretty smart. This person is asking for advice. It's because they recognize that I'm smart. Therefore, they have to be pretty smart too. I used to try to impress my bosses by my autonomy and good ideas. Then I tried to just ask the boss what he would do in my situation quite often. Not as an I have no idea, more like, hey, I was thinking about doing that. What do you think about it? I have a feeling you'll have exactly the best approach to it. They loved that. It gave them the chance to be in a mentor position and feel like we were doing this together. Story 67. Use messaging app to create a shopping list. I send the list to myself whenever things pop up in my head and keep editing it until my trip to the grocery store. Simple and effective. Story 68. Stop using your primary identity for your digital life. In my audits, I see how successful people actually operate. They treat their legal name as a shell company. How do people live without knowing this? 1. Burner entities. Never sign up for a service, a gym, or a loyalty program with your real name or primary email. Use a set of consistent aliases and masked VOEP numbers. 2. The buffer. Your real identity should only interact with the government and your bank. Everything else, your social media, your subscriptions, your Amazon deliveries should belong to a digital persona that has no logical link to your social security number. 3. The audit benefit. If one persona gets compromised, leaked, or tracked, you just delete the ledger and move on. Most people spend their lives building a single fragile tower of data. When that tower falls, their life ends. The hack is to build a decentralized village. If you aren't compartmentalizing your existence, you aren't living, you're just waiting to be indexed. Answer, that is really interesting. But how will that work at the gym, for example, if they ask for some sort of ID or credit card and the names don't match up? Can you share more about this, articles or anything? Is it too late to start doing this if you already have been using your true name everywhere? Won't it be confusing to people on social media or LinkedIn if the names don't match what they know you as in person? Story 69. If something you want to wear is wrinkled, put it in the dryer for 5 minutes with a damp washcloth. I don't even own an iron anymore. Also, you only need 1 to 2 teaspoons of laundry detergent for a normal load, 1 to 2 tablespoons if you don't have an energy-efficient washer. The manufacturers put that fill line in the cap way higher than it needs to be to get you to buy more detergent. Last laundry tip, you only need to use warm or hot water if you have heavy dust or grease oil stains. For regular loads, cold water gets your clothes just as clean and you don't have to spend the money to heat the water. Story 70. You can unsubscribe from most spam emails by searching unsubscribe in your inbox and mass cleaning it in minutes. Story 71. If someone is being rude to you, especially in a work setting, just straight up asking them to stop works 910 times. Learned this while working tech support and was amazed how I want to help you, but the way you are speaking to me is not appropriate. Please adjust your language so we can get this done. Or something like it gets you an apology and a tone change almost immediately. Story 72. Put a random birthday for any loyalty app you use and you'll get fun birthday freebies all year long. Story 73. You're not missing your socks from the dryer, you're just bad at matching them. Go through your sock drawer and you'll find all your missing socks mismatched with others. Story 74. Learn to pause before reacting. Giving yourself a few seconds before replying to a message or making a decision prevents many unnecessary problems. Story 75. A psychological ploy. Forgive your past self because they did the best they could at the time with what they knew at the time and the circumstances. If your past self could have done better, they would have done better. So forgive him or her. Story 76. A bidet. YTF, isn't this a normal thing for all Americans? And why are we all weirded out about it? Bought one years ago, and now when I visit my parents or stay in a hotel without one, I feel so gross and dirty. Story 77. One line. Hold water near the back of your throat. 2. Toss the pills back there and swallow. 3. Drink another swig of water. You won't taste bad tasting pills. They won't get stuck on your tongue. I could swallow 5 to 6 pills at a time this way if I had to. Story 78. If you have trouble swallowing pills, don't tip your head back. It makes it more difficult to swallow them. Instead, put the pills in your mouth, take a swig of water, and tilt your head down just a little bit and swallow. The pills float up towards the back of your mouth and it makes it much easier to swallow them. Tilting your head back actually makes them get stuck more often. I have some esophageal swallowing issues and have to take around 20 pills a day. Also, as long as your doctor or pharmacist is okay taking pills with food, you can put it in a spoonful of applesauce or pudding and swallow it very easily that way. Story 79. Control backspace deletes an entire word instead of just one letter. I write for a living and realizing I don't have to peck the backspace key 15 times to delete a mistake changed my entire workflow. It works on almost everything. Story 80. Most healthy adults don't need to eat 3 meals a day. Eating 1 meal a day has a lot of practical benefits independent of how healthy it is. Story 81. When you buy frozen pizzas, you can use the cardboard they came in as a means to cut them up after you cook them. Story 82. On takeout styrofoam boxes, when multiple people in the same household have food, use your fingernail to draw your initial on the top. Even my preteen is conditioned to do it. Story 83. When you're shopping online, always search for the item on a price tracker site first. A lot of sales are just the regular price marked up, then discounted back to normal. Seeing the price history saves you from falling for fake urgency. Story 84. A marginal employee came to me to say she was thinking of quitting for another job. Inside, I was cheering, but outside, I put on a concerned face and said, "Oh, that doesn't sound right for you. Would you share your reasons why you think that job would be better?" Over the next 10 minutes of telling me why I was so wrong, she talked herself 110 into quitting. I pulled out paper and pen for her resignation letter on the spot, graciously waived the 2-week notice period, and let her leave at noon. Win-win, especially for her former coworkers. Story 85. Clean as you go when cooking. Mise en place, which is just a fancy word for getting all ingredients out, veggies chopped, spices mixed, etc. in place before you start to cook. I like to line them up in order of use too. Story 86. Pour your liquid coffee creamer onto your coffee cup before you pour into the coffee. The coffee pouring stirs up the creamer so you don't dirty a spoon. Story 87. Glass baking trays. Why do people use cancer black baking trays that don't last when a glass baking tray lasts a lifetime and stays clean? Story 88. Think about what you're thinking about. Don't just let every thought you have pop into your head run rampant. When negative thoughts come, and they will forever, that never changes, squash it. Change the channel on the TV in your mind. Think about things you are or can be grateful for. It is not easy at first, but long as you actively do your best and remain consistent, it does get easier. Story 89. You don't have to make a lunch or a meal. If you need to eat but are too tired or too depressed, you can just eat the lunch meat and cheese and lettuce without assembling it. It seems obvious, but whenever I say this to people as something that had helped me, they're like, Story 90. A simple psychology trick. If you want two people to get on, simply tell each of them after they've met that the other person likes them. Hearing they're liked makes them legitimately like the other person more. Answer: I did this recently. One person joined my team who has a strong personality and could potentially clash with another coworker who takes everything personally. I got ahead of the game and told both of them, privately and in passing, how much the other person liked them right away. It set off a completely different trajectory, and they are very close now and defend each other if brought up in conversation. Edit: added words for clarification. Story 91. Full-size cookie, brownie, and cake mix can be stored in a container for single use. Seriously, 3 tablespoons of mix in a mug or very small bowl, 1 tablespoon of water, mix and microwave for 50 seconds. You don't need oil or eggs or butter to enjoy a single serving, and it's insanely cheaper than single-serve mixes. Story 92. If you shave in the shower, you don't need to suffer the inevitable rusting of the bottom of the shaving can. You can buy a little rubber holder thing from Amazon for cheap to use on all future shaving cans. Story 93. Ask 3 questions before you say anything. 1. Does this need to be said? 2. Does this need to be said right now? 3. Does this need to be said right now by me? Story 94. Hold down any key or the space bar on some phones on your phone keyboard for a moment to get a movable cursor. Story 95. Not a life hack as such, but the fact that there are grown jerk adults out there who have only just discovered that they don't have to stand under the shower while it gets warm makes me despair for humanity. Story 96. Examining your poo to assess the health of your diet. A diet that is healthy and rich in nutrients and fiber will have a nice, full, healthy poo with a rich brown color. A diet that is full of oils, such as fast food, and has no fiber, will be loose and ugly. You can literally change your health by doing this simple exercise daily. Answer: this is absolutely the answer. If you tell this to people, there is a high chance many of them will consider this gross. Like WTF, you have the chance to take a look at that one thing that passes throughout your whole body, and you don't look at it because it's gross. I thought this one came from animal instincts or something, but I guess we're evolving, just backwards. Story 97. If you have to make an important phone call, write down some points you want to discuss beforehand that you can refer to during the call. Story 98. When I take the wet clothes out of the washing machine, I put them straight onto hangers and then hang on a drying rack. When they are dry, I just hang them straight in the wardrobe. For clothes that will be used within a day or two, I just leave them on the drying rack and get them from there. Story 99. Typing without looking at the keyboard. It still gives me a headache seeing 90 of my coworkers struggle with typing, especially not seeing typos until they look up. Answer: I was so fortunate to take keyboarding as an elective class in HS. I never realized how valuable of a skill typing would become, and it's bailed me and my teammates out of many last-minute reports. I do quite a bit of typing for work too, so it's still paying dividends. I can still do about 72 words per minute pretty cleanly. Maybe 90s if I'm being sloppy with errors. Story 100. As a bag of chips gets empty, cut the top down so you don't have to reach into the bag so far next time. Story 101. After the washing finishes, use the drain and spin function. Was shown this only a few years ago. Makes a huge difference. Story 102. Speaking into my notes app on my phone instead of typing. These include notes to myself, ideas for fiction I write, shopping lists, drafting emails and messages, etc. Then I can fix the typo as send as a message, including to myself, etc. It also reflects how I'm speaking, forces me to speak more clearly. Story 103. Poverty tip. If you have overdraft protection on with a lot of banks, you can still overdraft for gas with no fee. Just make sure you have $1 in your account and hit credit because the pump will only charge you one and the rest just goes negative the next day with no fee. That way you can get your gas for the rest of the week. Not 100 sure it still works because I don't need it anymore, but it came in handy so many darn times for me when I really needed it. Story 104. Something my boss recently told me that stuck. Often with interpersonal relationships, reality doesn't matter. Perception matters. And you can change perception without changing reality. Her example was a prior job where her staff gave feedback about her that she didn't foster collaboration well. Her mentor advised her, use the word collaborate every chance you get. Work it into every email and meeting if you can. Don't say work together, say collaborate. When there's a problem, talk about it as a chance for collaborative problem solving. Her next review was people glowing about how collaborative she was. She never changed any behavior, just the words used. Answer. Something my boss recently told me that stuck. Often with interpersonal relationships, reality doesn't matter. Perception matters. And you can change perception without changing reality. As the late great Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Paraphrasing. Story 105. Bidet attachment completely changed how I view pooping and wiping. If I don't have access to one, I feel so unclean, like on vacations, until I shower. Bidet is basically a shower specifically for your butt and butthole. Makes the whole wiping process 1,000 times easier. Story 106. Here's another one. Actually listen to yourself. Words that come out of your mouth and thoughts. I can guarantee most outputs are not in alignment. Strive to be congruent, align your thoughts, words, and actions, and watch your life change. Story 107. Use my work calendar to set reminders for personal commitments like kids' classes and doctor appointments. I mark those appointments as private and set availability as free so that it's not messing with my work meetings. Story 108. An old colleague told me this. Have a personal and professional signature. If you see the wrong signature on paperwork you signed, you can easily see when it's manipulated. Story 109. Most people tie their shoelaces incorrectly. Do your shoelaces come undone easily? You might be tying them wrong. Next time you tie your shoes, take a moment to see which way the finished loops naturally lay on your shoe. If they are oriented parallel with your feet, they are wrong, and this is a weak knot that will come undone. If they are perpendicular to your feet, this is correct. If you're tying them wrong, the next time you tie your shoes, switch which lace you put on top of the other in the very first step of trying your shoe. This will fix it. Source. I tied my shoes wrong for almost 40 years. Story 110. When I realized my spare Reddit account had daily limits needed to get established, I guess. Not sure why Mo Main was perma-spended, but maybe get off my sack. Story 111. Where laundry has multiple tricks that have fixed a number of problems I was having with laundry, but particularly re-adding enzymes in the spa day routine. Story 112. Can't unscrew a jar with a metal lid? Bang the side of the lid in a few different places with a spoon or metal utensil, and it unscrews right away. Never understood why people never use that trick. Story 113. If you possess a talent, hobby, or a general interest that you excel at, it's highly probable that you can pursue a career in that field. Story 114. Labels for tops are always on the left side. Makes life a lot easier when putting on tops for you and kids. Simple but effective. Story 115. Using the same ticks before and after a quote. Your double comma was perfectly correct before printers started flipping them over. Story 116. Make a point to catch people doing the right good thing. Too often we only give feedback on negative things. Story 117. Move your recipes to OneNote or similar. You can then share your notebook with your partner family. This way you have access to ingredients and meal ideas from anywhere, like before leaving work at the end of the day. Easy to build up over time. Very handy. Story 118. Eat your apples like a boss. Eat from bottom to top, not around the sides. It's not corn on the cob. Eat right through the core. You're left with a stem, not a core. The core is not the gross, inedible thing you thought it was. Story 119. On a physical level, but really, it cascades into your mental, even spiritual aspects by way of the nervous system. Vitamin B12. Most people are deficient even if they eat meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. We deplete our stores of this vitamin as we grow older, and a lack of it causes a whole host of physical symptoms. It's not a panacea, but in my body and life, making sure I get lots of it has made all the difference. No more panic attacks, leg cramps, aches, pains, heavy legs, Morton's neuroma in my toes, sciatica, chapped lips, pins and needles neuropathy, skin patches and rashes, fatigue, foggy brain. My leg used to give out while walking sometimes. Now, no more. Better sleep, digestion. I'm not a doctor and am not claiming to give any medical advice. That said, most doctors, I'm sure, don't understand vitamin B12. It undergirds all your bodily functions. Get checked out if you suspect you're deficient, and then only supplement with high-quality B12. The best source will always be from your food, though, so if you're experiencing symptoms and amp up your protein intake. Protein usually has lots of vitamins B12. If you're vegan like I am, you may want to consider eggs and shellfish. I know that makes me not a pure vegan, but I am close. There's only one plant source of vitamin B12, and it's sun chlorella, a type of green algae. For a quick boost, you can use a vitamin B12 spray, but don't rely on it alone. I get that spray in both my vitamin B12 supplement with a few other hero ingredients and my chlorella on Amazon, and I don't live without them. Story 120. People want to feel heard. When I worked in customer service, people would call up and be mad about something. It wasn't within my lowly power to fix anything, but I responded with language that said I wasn't disagreeing with them. I hear what you're saying and how you're feeling. Most of the time, that was enough. Story 121. Positive reinforcement is way more effective than negative reinforcement. If you want your roommate to stop leaving their wet towel on the ground, don't say I dislike it when you leave your wet towel on the ground. Instead, say I love it when you hang your towel up. It's so awesome living with someone like you. You won't believe how effective it is. You can exert unbelievable influence on people's behavior by creating a positive image of them and communicating it to them. Story 122. When tearing aluminum foil plastic wrap, you put the cardboard part within the box and then tear on the sharp part. Clean rips every time. Story 123. Not a life hack, but failure is a good thing. Fail early and often. That's how I will learn. I can't stop failure, but I can prevent it with choosing not to act. Future me will appreciate current me for having the courage to try and fail. Story 124. Motorcycle. Easily taking the safety course and getting my license. Help me get over some anxiety, my unhealthy obsession with the lady in my life, work stress, etc. Story 125. Gave up animal products. Not a preachy vegan type, but I stopped feeling that bit of guilt when I took my kid to see farm animals. Lost a load of weight and genuinely feel a whole lot better. Still occasionally have pangs for bacon sandwiches and lamb curries, though. Story 126. Quit smoking cigarettes with the help of an e-cig. I've worked my way down to 3 mg of nicotine, soon to 0, and then nothing. Story 127. I learned how to study. I was not a good high school student and started out freshman year of college with a GPA 3.0. I turned things around, studied for once in my life, put down video games, showed up to class, and earned acceptance to med school. In retrospect, maybe I just matured, but learning how to study got me into and through medical school and residency. Story 128. When I was 27, I completely changed my eating and exercise habits. I dropped 65 pounds in a year and went from a size 16 to a size 6. I had high cholesterol and bad high blood sugar. I gained a bit of weight while being pregnant and breastfeeding, but I'm now a size 8 and extremely happy that I've stuck to better eating habits. Story 129. I began eating healthy and exercising regularly after previously being sedentary and not caring about what I put in my body. It changed my life in a multitude of ways I never would have thought of. Story 130. So last year, I made a challenge to myself to do 2 things. Get in shape and read more. I started getting in shape at the end of June 2017, have lost 50 pounds so far, 321, 270, and it has had a huge impact on my life. Less general pain in my body, more energy. I sleep better on account of being more tired at the end of the day. For the first year, June 2017 to June 2018, I set one simple goal for exercising. I wanted to go to the gym 60 of the days for that first year. 60 of 365 days is 219, and I ended up at 215, so just short of my goal. This year, I have upped it to 65 of the days plus a couple of other goals to drive myself towards. The second thing was reading more. I committed to reading 1 hour every weekday and 2 hours every weekend day. I blew that one out of the water. Generally, I would read books or magazines related to my business, but sometimes I would just pick up a novel and read it, which was made much easier because of the fact that my brother is a PhD English student. I feel like I have learned a lot more in the past year because of this change. I also find it to be an incredibly relaxing pastime and, like exercising, it helps me get to sleep a lot easier. Usually I'm pretty much ready to fall asleep by the time I'm done my hour of reading for the day. Small changes in the morning routine really do seem to set the tone for the entire day. It's less about the specific action itself and more about the psychological shift of taking control of your time before the rest of the world starts making demands on you. Story 131. Long story made short, packing a bag and running away from home in the middle of the night and not telling anyone. Story 132. Quit my soul-crushing job at the Amazon warehouse. Taught myself to code, and 2 years later, I am now a full-time software developer. Story 133. I learned how to play guitar. Had minor depression and needed something to do. Guitar got me interested in music and since has become a very important part of my life. Story 134. I gave up soda and cut my caffeine intake by about 90. I still drink a cup of coffee in the morning, but drink different teas through the day, mostly green and decaf. Importantly, I quit the Red Bulls, Monsters, and so on. I'm a lot less anxious, have less fits of fearfulness, and can concentrate much easier. 97 days and counting. Story 135. Getting a real career. I was a college dropout with a successful small retail business. Felt smug about that. Later sold the business and found out I was qualified to do nothing other than retail management. 60 hours per week, lousy hours, and mediocre pay. Finished a BA, then a master's in a specialty that had actual job opportunities, and have now had a successful 20-year career. Great pay, regular hours, great benefits. College was definitely worth it for me. Story 136. Got married. I finally found that missing piece that I had tried to fill with hobbies and distractions for years. I have a teammate and friend, companion, and someone who helps me make better decisions because I love them. I truly am a better person because I want to be worthy of my wife and the love she gives me. It's a great way to live. Story 137. I started saving for my retirement as early as I could and learned to manage my finances. I made my first contributions to my Roth IRA when I was 19. I'm 27 now, and I have a little over 130 of my gross annual salary in my retirement accounts. My emergency savings is healthy. The only debt I have is a car payment. I'm saving for a house right now and hope to buy within a couple years. Knowing that my future is financially secure, both in the short and long term, is extremely comforting. Answer. Important note. You have to have a good salary to do this. My first job after college, I made $15,000 that year, graduating into an imploding career field. I lived in a small house with 2 other people and ate ramen noodles and canned tuna 7 days a week with a 25-year-old car I fixed myself. I still did not make enough money to save a darn thing. People act like it's some act of heroism to save up money, but if you're making over 50,000 out of the box, if you got the right degree, you'll be saving up money hand over fist as long as you're not catastrophically stupid with your expenses. It's not rocket science to not eat at restaurants for every meal or not buy a new car that you owe $400 a month on. Just don't do that shoot. By far the hard part is making enough money where you don't have to live with a small handful of strangers and forgo health insurance to be able to afford to eat. Story 138. I started drinking more water. You'd be surprised as to how much better and clearer you feel and think when you're drinking the recommended amount of water every day. Story 139. I started to walk with my head up rather than looking at the ground. That first tiny step meant over the next couple years, my confidence improved dramatically. Story 140. Learning not to be jealous. I used to be overwhelmingly jealous to the point it tore apart my third serious relationship. Story 141. I started using makeup. I know this by itself is not a remarkable feat or particularly unique or impressive, but I struggled a lot with depression in high school. Getting out of bed was undoubtedly the most difficult part of my day. Everything else, even the most minor of tasks from showering to brushing my teeth, seemed so daunting and downright impossible most days. Bigger responsibilities like my dream, school assignments, and club commitments were even more impossible. I was convinced I couldn't do anything, and as a result, I let my depression dictate my life. My family doctor at the time didn't take me seriously and reluctantly passed me off to a psychiatrist who did not pay attention during our first session. He was on his phone with his brother for more than half our meeting. Needless to say, I did not return to either healthcare provider about my issues. Somehow I made it all the way through high school, and during my first year away from home, for the first year of university, I started getting into makeup. I wasn't good at it at first, not by a long shot, but by having a set morning routine, I had something to look forward to every day. It helped me get out of bed, it helped me get out of the house, it gave me something to be interested in after depression stripped away all my former hobbies. Doing makeup did not cure my depression, and I know it will never, but it did give me something I had full control over. I may not have control over my emotions yet, but I do know how to draw eyeliner evenly and blend foundation. It's the little things. Answer. Sure, it's not a huge achievement to most people, but it is to you, and that's what matters. It's not I put on makeup, it's I found something that is helping me find the motivation to get my life on track. They say you should make your bed every day because accomplishing a task creates a domino effect. The more you accomplish, the more you're inspired to accomplish more. Procrastination usually stems from overthinking the small tasks until they feel much larger than they actually are. Breaking that cycle by just acting immediately is probably one of the most practical pieces of advice that anyone can actually apply to their daily life. Story 142. Stop blaming the world for my unhappiness in life. Making even the slightest efforts has had a tremendous positive impact on my life. Now I focus and ask myself personal questions that I ran away from for years. I eat cleaner. I don't have social media. I exercise every day. Each day is a new start to find some way to improve myself. It's a work in progress. I have my sad moments. Still, but compared to 2 years ago, I'm much happier. Story 143. Stopped being friends with a toxic person. TBH, everything I like about myself. I gained it from actually cutting her off and being left alone with no real friends. Taught me a lot and helped me become a tougher and stronger person. Story 144. Going back to therapy and ending a very vicious cycle of self-harm and tragic end attempts. It gets better, I promise. Story 145. Finally went to the doctor after brushing off what turned out to be celiac disease and severe anemia. I have a hectic lifestyle and just thought I was overdoing it. Ended up at the doctor when my mom made me get a blood test. 2 years on a gluten-free diet, and I am incredibly healthy. I have lost 2.5 stone, and on Tuesday I ran 10 miles. 2 years ago, I was exhausted running to the end of the road. Story 146. Drop out of college. I was the first to go to college in my family. I'm from a small town with a college and high school practically beside each other, and these are the schools I went to. I was 18 and had never been anywhere, so I thought what my parents said were true. I wanted to go to my dream school, but the local school was harder to get into, so I guess my family felt more prestigious that I went there, and I was very pressured to go there. They also didn't want me to move out. We can't afford dorms, even though O had a full ride, so I stayed home. Everyone had dreams for me. My mom wanted me to be a nurse. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. My grandparents wanted me to be a teacher. But if I mentioned my own dreams, they were wrong. All of this combined was too much, and I had a mental breakdown halfway through my second semester. I dropped out, moved out, and got to know the world better and figured out what I wanted to really do. I bought a house, got married, had 2 kids, and now I'm back in school, at my original dream school, majoring in occupational therapy. I am thinking of switching to speech-language pathology, but whatever I choose, I know that it is truly my decision, and that will make me happy. Story 147. I woke up one day and realized I was always in relationships with other people and never for me. The guy I had spent the last year and change with was the guy who I only stayed with because I was too nice to break up with him. I had moved 3 hours away from where I had settled after school for that year, just because that's what he said he wanted to be happy, and moved in with friends of mine that needed the help with rent more than they wanted us there. I spent 2 months there, crying myself to sleep every night, commuting an hour to a job that made me cry 2 or 3 times daily, agonizing over the people I missed at my old job. And then woke up and realized none of these things made me happy. This guy hadn't made me happy since I met him, and that the only reason I felt compelled to move with him was because it made it easier and better for him, not me. Broke up with him, moved back, got my old job back. Never in my life have I felt more happy, more excited, more alive, more whole. I got into a relationship with a guy because I wanted it, not anyone else. Aside from him, I got my job back because I wanted it and never wanted to quit it in the first place. I am so much happier and more fulfilled, And all I changed was I started asking myself how it benefited me before anyone else. Story 148, getting out of debt and getting rid of all credit cards. If I don't have cash, it doesn't get bought. Story 149, leaving the church I was a part of in high school. Suburban prosperity, gospel evangelical Christianity. It opened up a whole world of spiritual exploration outside of just one way of looking at things. Story 150. 2 months ago, I decided to stop eating Chipotle and start working out. I weighed 270 pounds as a 17-year-old, and I can happily say I only weigh 225 now, and I plan to lose another 50 pounds by the start of next summer. Story 151. Moving from the US to Europe, I went back to visit family and was like, WTF, this lifestyle culture here is depressing. Healthcare and schools are much better and cheaper. Plus, don't have to worry about getting shot. Story 152. I literally moved away from the place that was causing all of my problems. I feel like a different person now in all the right ways. Story 153. By cutting the vast majority of my friends out of my life. You don't realize how toxic people are until they are in your rear view. Story 154. Was working for a grocery chain, and a lady came through with a jar of old coins that the coins to cash, Coinstar, machine wouldn't accept. Gave her money out of my pocket for the change and ended up with about 40 and old 5,100-year-old US coins, most of which are apparently made of silver. I'd say that was the best change I've ever made. Story 155. Stopped talking to a toxic friend entirely a little while ago. She stressed me out for the better part of a year, while I also happened to be effectively unemployed. She had tried to turn a bunch of my friends against me. I started having constant nightmares. I was penniless and super lonely. It's really hard to let go of someone you care about, but as soon as we stopped talking and the nightmares ended, literally everything turned around within the span of a month. Story 156. Have to say, giving up all adult beverage. 3 years now, and I'm so fit in health mentally and physically. Story 157. Stop being friends with my toxic friend group, even though I'd been friends with them for 8 to 10 years. Story 158. Just before transferring to a 4-year college, I'd been in community college previously, I decided I wanted to make my studies my primary focus. I sold all of my video games and all of my consoles apart from my PC. I wanted there to be as few distractions and temptations as possible. 2 years later, I graduated magna cum laude. Story 159. Moving closer to my workplace, reducing my commute from 1 hour to 25 minutes changed my life, and I was much happier. Answer, moving closer to my workplace, reducing my commute from 1 hour to 25 minutes changed my life, and I was much happier. In college, I had a real-world 101 class where they invited past graduates to talk about their experiences and share lessons learned. Housing, insurance, taxes, WAFs, etc. One speaker highlighted the point you made. Try to shorten your commute as much as possible. Pays off in so many ways. More ways than you can think of right now. You can wake up later, get more sleep, and still get to work on time. You can leave work on time and get home faster. Get a head start and beat the rush hour traffic. If you forget something at home, you can go back and get it quickly. Lifesaver if you forgot something you needed for an important meeting. If you have to work overtime, it's not a big deal. Staying an extra hour won't result in you getting home at 10 p.m. You can go home during lunch hour to eat or maybe even take a nap. When you get home, you're more relaxed and less stressed because you weren't stuck in traffic for that long. You have the energy to do things with your free time. You have free time because you're not wasting it on a commute. More time to go out at night with friends, on dates, to concerts, indulge in hobbies, etc. Easier to maintain friendships and enter new relationships. The best setup I ever had was a golden triangle where my apartment, my workplace, and a big restaurant nightlife area were all within a 10-minute walk of each other. If friends wanted to grab a meal or drinks in that area, it was easy to walk over once I got off work. No driving or even public transportation necessary. Amazing while it lasted. Story 160. Cutting out toxic woman from my life, every aspect of my life improved in a month. Health got better, finances, and overall happiness. Story 161. I stopped comparing myself to others. I have accomplished a lot in my life, but I never knew it until I stopped looking at others. I always disliked myself. Now I'm a bit happier and the sky is the limit. Also, I stopped taking internet people seriously in discussion. I'm not saying everyone should, but trolls are real. Story 162. Getting a better mattress, less back pain, and a better quality of rest meant that I felt much more enthusiastic and motivated in the mornings. Story 163. I moved to Spain 6 years ago, so much happier than I would have been had I stayed in the UK. Edit, sweatier too. It's 8 p.m. and 40 degrees Celsius. Send help. Story 164. Got fired from a crappy job in retail I had been working at for 5 years. Had to get a temp job during the summer, and it burnt me the fudge out. Decided to go back to school. Now, 5 years later, I'm working a much more rewarding job in the medical field, mentally and financially, and thinking about going back to school to become a PA. Story 165. Low carb, less processed food, more sleep, more exercise, clean and tidy living. Space, although I'm an introvert with extreme social anxieties, pushing that aside and being more friendly with strangers and coworkers. I'm over a happier individual. Additional advice, don't pathologize your mental sicknesses. Story 166. Started muting people on Twitter, Facebook. Used to not do it because real life doesn't have a mute button, but meanie, guess what? Twitter does. Story 167. The best thing I've done for myself, I feel, is having made the decision to cut out animal products completely. I ate a vegetarian diet for just under 5 years when I finally decided to start living a vegan lifestyle, as well as a whole food plant-based diet. I feel comfortable writing this out amongst the vegans, tell everyone that they're vegan as soon as they possibly can remarks, because it genuinely impacted so many aspects of my life in such positive ways that I would never have assumed. Apart from being the easiest and most effective thing you can do to lessen our impact on the environment, it's shown me the true potential that my body can provide by not being bogged down by such weighted, physically and morally, food choices. I've become more in touch with myself, the world around me, and the others that are in it, from something as easy as being mindful of what I fed myself with and the impact it creates. Story 168. Left my wife of 10 years. Every day since has been better than the day before. I was able to go back to school, find a new career that I love, and find an amazing woman who makes me happy. I've been able to form better relationships with my kids, regardless of the fact we don't live together anymore. Don't stay in an unhappy, unhealthy relationship. Sometimes it's better to be alone than be miserable. Answer. In some situations, it's definitely the right decision. Some others, though, are worth the working it out to find ways to communicate better, eliminate the poison, etc. My wife and I were separated for about a month about 6 months ago, and now we are happier than ever. Someone told me marriage is literally the hardest thing you'll ever do and continue to do, but it's completely worth it. Story 169. The first time I ever thought to myself something like, I want to be a girl, was around when I was 12. I've spent the next 16 years trying to fight that feeling and convince myself that being a man is okay. I've decided to stop fighting my feelings. And for once, I feel like I have a future I care to live, and my depression is lifting. I'm more social and making new friends. I'm connecting with my family members more. A lot of my toxic behavior suddenly makes sense to me. All the coping mechanisms like depression spending, body image disorders, narcissistic, read no self-confidence, selfie spam. I basically had to have it beaten into my head by both medical science and the trans community that it's a legitimate biological condition and there's nothing I can do to make it go away. It will be with me forever. And if I don't address it now, it will destroy my life. Story 170. After watching a TED Talk with the Fake It Till You Make It slogan, I got a little inspiration and stated to the president of my company the next day that I was going to completely reinvent myself over the weekend. Since I have too much pride to embarrass myself by not following through with what so told such an important person at my job, I was forced to actually do it. I came in the following week dressed nicer and, although I was scared on the inside to do so, asked my boss for more responsibility. I told him it was time to get serious and take things to the next level. Fast forward 2 years and my salary doubled. Now many years later I make 6 figures, all because of that one seemingly foolish statement I made to the president of the company. I more or less hacked my own brain and forced a huge change, and against my own predictions, I succeeded wildly. Now every time the president of my company introduces me to someone important, he tells the story of me approaching him that fateful day, ending with I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. I truly shocked myself. Story 171. Losing 90 pounds before, my heartbeat was over 100 beats per minute. When I went to give blood recently, they said it was 68 beats per minute. I have a lot more energy and I'm a lot happier. Story 172. My boyfriend first introduced me about Fitness Watch. I decided to get one. I made a goal of trying to reach 10 steps daily. I did not think it helped me do treadmill, but it did. Now here I am going to the gym 4 times a week. I want to reach back my high school weight. Story 173. Selling all my magic cards, buying a cheap car on Craigslist, putting all my stuff into it, and moving 3 hours away from my mom, despite having no real plan and not knowing the guy whose house I was moving into. My mom is a wonderful person and I love her, but she will make excuses for me no matter what I do, and will convince me that everything bad that happens to me is 100 someone else's fault. I moved in with her after graduating from college, and despite having an engineering degree from a very good school, spent the next year as a NEET, never had a job, and gained 30 pounds. Within 6 months of moving to Dallas, I was employed as an actual engineer. Story 174. I stopped being afraid to go places by myself, particularly at night. Background info. My mom was, and still is, kind of paranoid about me being out anywhere after dark. She lives 2 states away now, and our relationship is much better for it. In my mid-20s, I started going on day trips to other cities on my own, trying new restaurants by myself, going to the movies without friends. It took me a while to realize that I enjoy my own company and that you don't always need friends to have a nice day out. Perspective is everything when it comes to our environment. Sometimes we stay in situations just because they are familiar, even if they aren't particularly good for us. Hearing stories like this really highlights how different life can look after making just one major decision to move on. Story 175. Getting married for the 3rd time. Been the best 10 years of my life, which was preceded by 10 of the worst. Story 176. I got court-ordered therapy, got out of a toxic relationship, yes, they're related, and reconnected after about a year with an old flame. Been happily married for 7 years now. Story 177. Finally saw a doctor at 21 about anxiety. Got on meds immediately for anxiety depression. I didn't know how terrible it was until it wasn't there anymore. Story 178. Quitting McDonald's a few years back. Having a job that makes you dread waking up in the morning and having to go there isn't any way to live, especially when working with a crew of people who look for any reason to call out or avoid a certain area where work needs to be done. Story 179. So, mini story. I am used to moving in my life as I grew up in Florida, then moved to Pennsylvania for work after graduating college. However, the biggest change was when I met this girl who came from Germany. We got to know each other, and I ended up falling in love with her, the first time I could say I really fell for someone in years. She ended up moving back to Germany within only a few months of having met each other, au pair contract ending. So I sat there wondering what I ought to do. Well, yours truly is now living in southern Germany, working on an engineering master's, currently writing this from her best friend's birthday dinner. You can make any change you want in your life. It just takes planning, a little bravery, and a little more luck. Story 180. After law school, I decided not to become a lawyer, but to become a nurse. I'm so much more happy now than I have ever been before. Story 181. Moving from the fringes of the GTA, where I was depressed, bored, and essentially lived at the pub, to beautiful BC, where I ski, bike, kayak, and make my own god-darn beer.